Welcome everybody to another video from Tech Taco Friday. I'm your host, Hector. And today in this video, we're continuing with the CI/CD workflow for Fabric series. And in this video in particular, I'm going to show you how the development cycle works with a series of examples using Power BI. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first thing I wanted to show you is the context, okay? And the context, of course, is a Fabric workspace that's already been created. And I wanted to show you that in Git integration, I also have it configured to a specific organization, project, Git repository, branch, and folder. Okay, so if I go to my organization, in this case, DevOps, Fabric CI/CD workflow, and I'm going to my repositories called Fabric CI/CD workflow, which is the one here. And then let's look at the branch, correct? So this is the W series, workspace W series. As you can see, this Fabric is this Git folder. What does that mean? Is that whatever is within this folder is going to be sync with the workspace. So that's a very important thing that you need to understand out of the get-go, all right? Because many people ask me about what is the Git folder? What is exactly is that one? It's just the folder where you will find the items in Fabric that will be reflected on your workspace, and vice versa. The stuff that you create on your workspace and then push to your code, it will be in this folder within the branch. All right. So with that, the first thing I'm going to do is going through probably something that many people know, which is publishing a Power BI report to the cloud service. But I'm going to do that in the lenses of the development cycle, because what's important to us from the development cycle is, yes, we delivered the report, but what we're going to do is then how we can control changes, right, from the development perspective. And for that, you need to understand what happens after you click the publishing. Where is the report definition? How does that look like? And all that. Okay, so not going to get ahead of myself. Let's go directly into the example. So I'm going to open a Power BI PBIX file. I mean, probably this many of you have noticing in notice and find very familiar. Nothing weird. It's just a Power BI report with some visuals, with a semantic model and connections and all that stuff, and some data. It's a very small data set. And what you usually do is, okay, I'm done with the report, and then I need to send this report definition to the cloud, right? I mean, to the service in the cloud. So what many people do is click on the publish, and then you need to find a workspace, which is the target of your report. So let's select this one because that's the one that I'm using. Let's wait until the report continues. And you will notice that I'm renaming this one well dashboard and within parentheses legacy because of the format. Currently Fabric by default is saving the report in the service, and it will just make sense in just a second. All right, so we publish our report as expected. Now in our workspace, now we can see the reports being published. We can see that if I click on the report itself, it will show the data because the publishing mechanism both exports the content or the definition of the report, semantic model, and the data within the semantic model. All right, so that's why we can see this one. We have data, everything looks great, fine. What I wanted to talk about is a little bit of what's happening behind the scenes. All right, since we have our workspace connected to Git, you will immediately notice is that Power BI, or in this case Fabric, is telling us you created items in Fabric through the portal that are not being reflected to your branch, right, to your source code. So what do you want it to do? Do you want it to send it back in an operation in Git called commit? Yeah, we would, because I wanted to know what happens behind the scene, how this PBIX file is now transformed into. So let's check it out. So this is my new published report, right? I'm going to select both, and then I'm just going to commit. It will take a second. And then I want you to look at your right, and let's see what happens at the branch level. Now, again, we publish our changes from portal to the code, okay? So if I click here, and I'm just going to do a quick refresh and reopen Fabric, and you will notice that within my branch, now we have the text-based version of the report, which is the definition of the report itself. It only will save, and it will save it in two separate folders. One where it contains all the visual part of the report, you know, the report, the visuals, the measures, the the definition of the visuals that you have, the location, and all that configuration is in the report. And in another folder, it will create the semantic model. So that what does that tell you? That now from this point forward, you can consider both report and semantic model not to be a single unit. They can be developed separately. All right. Um, and as you can see here in the report, there's only the schema, right? The definition of the report itself, or in this case, the report and the semantic model themselves. We don't have any data. The data is still in the portal, or in this case, managed by Fabric. But in the definition, we can only see JSON files, you know, where in this case, let me show you really quickly what does JSON look like. Oop, let me try to, yes. And this, again, to no one's surprise, is just give you the definition of the report, right? How the visuals are located and all that stuff, the labels and everything that has to do with report. And in the semantic model, we can see that we have definition of the report, and we have yeah, and we have the model definition. All right. Okay. Now, this is the important takeaway from this is as follow: that when you're publishing a report into Fabric, you're no longer working with the binary PBI version of the report. Now you're working with the definition reflected or materialized at code in the form of JSON files or text-based files, being JSON in another type of format, but nonetheless, it's information that you can see. Unlike the PBIX, since it's a binary file, you have no way to see what changed. But in a TXT file, yes, you can, right? And we're going to show you exactly how to keep control our changes moving forward. Okay, let's park on this one because I wanted to show you the next way. And now in Fabric we have, and this is a very cool way that we can control our reports, which is through it's a new feature called Power BI projects. And this causes a lot of confusion for many people because they don't understand how it works, how it looks like. So I'm going to show you right here, right now, how it does. So let's demystify that process. Now, I'm going to use, and this, I'm just going to zoom in or give it more space now to Visual Studio. What I'm going to show you, you can do it in Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code, doesn't matter, because any tool that you can use that can work with Git, use it. It's not a problem. I use Visual Studio just because it's very convenient for me to show how the branches get reflected, and it's very visual and looks very good. So I'm going to use this one. So I already have my local version of my branch. So the first thing I'm going to do is click this button. So sync, pull, and push. And what that is going to do is asking Git, hey, give me the latest version that you have on the report on my local machine. So I can work, let's say, offline with my report. So that's possible. Okay, so the sync completed, and as you can see, now we have this too. And if you're wondering, and if you're not very familiar with branches, all I'm doing is saying, bring me the version of the reports in Fabric to my locally on my in this case machine, so I can work in the report. All right. So as you can see here, I have the reports that I just published and the definitions that I have. Fine. So I'm going to take this path right here, and in a second you will see why. Because now I'm going to, instead of clicking publish, I wanted to create a Power BI project. How am I do this? So if you go and click Save As and you click Browse Model, you won't see this option directly. Many of you probably won't see this option directly in your Power BI because it's still in a preview mode. So the first thing you want to do is go to Options, okay? And then you need to activate a couple of preview features. So go to Preview Features and then scroll down all the way to this. And then you can see here that says Power BI Project Save option enabled. So it's going to enable, but I'm going to do a couple more things. One is to store the semantic model in TMDL because this is also a new format that Microsoft is implemented in this one, that it's more readable. And the other one is that enhance metadata format. This is why this report I named enhance. The other one, legacy, because legacy uses the previous version of the report. I'm going to show you how it looks like with this enhanced version of the report. Okay, so it's going to click OK, and I need to restart my Power BI. So I'm not going to save the changes. I already published them. But I'm going to reopen my legacy because I'm not going to save it as a different report. Okay, so now we have this one, and I'm going to go, once the report gets fully loaded, to, boom, there it goes, File, and then Save As, browse the device. And now we have another option, right, which is Project BI Project Files. So I'm just going to use this option. I'm going to use this option, and I'm going to save it in this location. And instead of legacy, I'm going to call enhance, okay? Enhanced. All right, so let's click save. So it's going to be working, and then it's done. And now I want to see a couple of things on this new report. Okay, let me just open. Okay, enhance, right? You can see this one. So we have the, oops, sorry, I saved it in the wrong location. Okay, so let me just save it one more time. Save as, because I didn't save it within the Fabric folder, unfortunately. So let me just take it once again. Fabric, enhance PBI, and then let me just once again save it. All right, fair enough. Now we can see that we have the legacy in one hand within our Fabric, and we have the new enhance method. In addition, you will see that now there's a new type of file called PVIP. So that means that whenever now we work on our Power BI reports, we can just click on this one and the report will open as if it is published in our code repository, which is make it way more convenient for us to work with our repositories using code. Okay, so take that one, put a pin on that mental note, for example, and let's go back to what's going to happen from the development cycle, right? So we now have the same report, but now we have this one being saved as a Power BI report, as you can see here. Somehow the same logic or the same way of treating reports now. Instead of a binary version, now it's a text-based version of the report. But you'll notice, and remember that I mentioned that by activating this feature that we will use an enhanced version of the report, you will notice if you compare the report, the legacy versus the enhanced, right? I'm just going to open, and I hope you to see that the folder structure is a little bit different, because now in the enhanced report version, this saves the visual elements in a more granular type of way, where instead of having just one big definition in JSON, it just splits the report into its internal components so you can track more easily the changes made in the report. And you will see just that in a second. For the time being, just notice the change in format. And what happens next is that, okay, so I have my new report, as you can see here, right? So it's new file and this information, the composed version of the report. So I'm going to say, yeah, this is my new enhanced, my new report using enhanced PVIR. All right. So I'm just going to click commit and publish. All right. It will send this one. Again, I'm delivering my changes to Git, correct? And now what's going to happen if I'm going back to Fabric? Whoops, let me go here. And then let's go back to the source control. And now the workspace is telling you, hey, I detected some changes in the branch that you don't have in your workspace. What do you want me to do with them? And I'm going to say, yeah, bring it forward. How to do that is by clicking this button called Update All. Until you do that, your workspace, even though notices and have, awareness that there's some changes coming from, it won't be, it do not integrate them until you acknowledge by clicking Update All. But there's an interesting point, is that means that this is a manual operation, right? But we can automate, and we will talk about that in the second part of this video, that when we talk about CI/CD integration, or in this case, continuous integration. We're going to talk about how to automate this process, and then instead of being us or anyone for all that matter have to go and click update, we're going to automate. For the time being, and for this exercise, I'm going to go through the manual path and click update. Okay. So I said that we have our new report and I wanted to have it. I wanted to integrate it in my workspace. So I'm just going to click update. Okay. I'm going to also refresh. This is just for you to see that we have now the full folders in our code repository in the version. And then we are going to see that now we have our new report. However, I'm going to just show you something, and probably this will be very interesting. And I'm issuing the question. I mean, why is this report empty? Why is it empty? Yeah, right? Because when we're dealing with Power BI projects, we're dealing only with the structure, right? Remember, only with the definition of the report without any data. Unlike when you're publishing, unlike when you go through the publish route, publish button sends the context, or in this case, definition and the data. But now when we're working with projects, we are not sending any data, we're just sending the metadata of the report, the definition. So in this case, this is not, cannot be interpreted as the report is broken. It's just a different way. We send this, and what we needed to do now is just bring the data or reload the semantic model. So in my case, I'm going to do it by right-click on the settings, and then the report internally, when I publish, it was using a connection, but now that connection, it was using a connection that it was linked to my local computer. So in this case, what we need to do is make a substitution of the connection, or substitution or a mapping. Yeah, hence the name of maps to, and I'm going to use my on-prem SQL connection, right? I'm going to apply, And then by attaching this one at the service level, now I can go and I'm going to go back to my report, my workspace. Yes. And now I can refresh my semantic model, and then the data is going to, if everything works well, yes, it seems to be, it's working well. Right now, it's getting the latest data from my source. And then done. If I click once again the report, it was empty, but now let's refresh our visuals. Now we have the data back. All right? All right. So, and then what is the logical next step? We publish a report. We notice that now we have it in code. Everything works well. It's committed. It's working perfect. Okay. What is the next stage? Is, let's say, reports usually are very fluid. We constantly have to upgrade, enrich, enhance reports. So once we have this report in Fabric published and everything, how we do introduce changes correctly, all right? So the next example is I'm going to show you how to introduce changes, but using a more a structured development cycle, which is using through a feature branch. In the diagram that I show in my article that depicts in the workflow, that usually integrate your changes from feature branch. So for those that are not quite familiar with that, I'm going to show you how exactly that works. All right. So again, we have now our reports, and let's say for the sake of argument that this report, I want to change this visual that we can see here, right? So that will be the goal. We have a requirement and they're saying, this visual is not giving us good information. I think it should be changed to a visual that best represents the data that it contains. Let's change it. Okay, fine. I'm a developer. I'm in charge of that task. So how do I do it? Remember that we have now one, in this case, we have the local version of a report, right? So let me just once again get the latest, and I'm going to sync and push, right? Sync, which is give me the latest from the branch to my local environment so I can work with it, right? So I'm going to close this one, and now we have it, all right? And we have this PVIP file, which is located here. Let me just show you, all right? So what are we going to do? I'm going to go to my Power BI desktop, okay? And then now, instead of looking for PBIX files, I'm going to look for my project. Okay, let's do that. Again, I'm going to open a new report or open an existing report, browse this device, and going to this location, and then I'm just going to pick this one, right? Oh, sorry, but before I'm doing that, I'm going to do something that I needed to do before that. I'm sorry. So I'm going to get to my new repository. I bring the latest and greatest, but now I wanted to test this one in a new branch, feature branch before I merge back to my workspace, right? What is the reason behind that? Is that by doing that, you're isolated yourself from not affecting anybody else by taking a branch, which is a local version, and then doing your changes in a safe way, and then send it back whenever everything works correctly and everything is checked out and everything is worked, then you send it back. So that process, that mechanism allows you to develop in parallel and safely isolated from everybody else, right? Not affecting everybody else, nor anybody will affect you. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, as I described, I'm going to take a new local branch and I'm going to call it feature. All right. Usually that's a naming convention that I have. And then I'm just going to use, for using my naming convention, again, the name of the workspace where this feature branch originated, and then something more descriptive like changing the visual type, right? That's going to be the name of my branch. So I'm going to create, okay? And then boom, I have this changing the visual type. Again, we have the local version of the report. I'm gonna go, and now I can go and open a new, and then my branch, and then I'm gonna open my report, right? Okay, now we said that, and the requirement was that we need to change this type of visual. So I know that I can do it now safely by clicking this one, and I'm going to change it to a tree map. I think it will look much better, right? And based on this visual, I think the budget, I'm going to take this budget off. So that will give us, the what is called, proportions of expenditure that we have in our data, right? So I'm saying, oh, cool, this looks great. Looks great. I'm good with this changes. So I'm clicking save. And then what is going to happen? If I'm going to my branch, you will see that in this enhanced version of the report, and as I mentioned, one of the things that it's better in this enhanced version is that all of the elements are deconstructed in its own very specific, or what do you say, every visual will have its little piece of the whole definition, right? So as you can see here, instead of having one JSON file with showing you, I mean, many different type of parts where this report may change, it only show you, yes, I only change this visual. So that is one of the advantages of the enhanced version of PBIX. They restructure so every visual component is represented by itself, which, as you can see here, it makes things way easier, right? Because now we can see what changed on our report. Obviously, the most important change is that instead of using a stock bar chart, now we can see that the report was changed to a tree map, and then some of the values, some of the measures where the report lives change. So we're good. So what we're going to do is just, publish this new version. So this is the new version of my report, right? So let's click and push from this branch, right? Now, we wanted to check, and in this case, the next part of the process is to verify that everything works correctly. I mean, obviously, we check that one locally, but we can actually do something more interesting. For instance, now we have our workspaces, right? We have the series demo here. I can actually create another workspace, for instance, all right? So let me just going here, right? And then I'm going to do something really, really interesting, right? So I'm going to change my current branch, right? I'm going to switch this branch to something else. Just really quickly to check that everything is correct. So I'm going to switch this branch, and I'm going to switch it to the new one that I created, right? So it's going to see, and yes, I understand that I wanted to do this. So let's switch the branch and let's see what happens, right? So now we have the new branch. It got synced, and then I'm just going to click my report, and boom, now we have a different version of the report. You see? Now we have the visual because now we have a different version. We haven't modified the previous one. Now we just publish the new changes to a new branch, and we can see that everything looks great. Our changes work. Nothing weird happened, so we're good, right? All right. Now let's switch back once again. All right, because I want you to see what's going to happen next. Okay, let's switch back to another branch, to the branch that we have from the beginning, which is the source of truth for this particular workspace. This is going to be it. Now, how do we are going to, let's say, make it official, the changes? All right. So the way we can do that is through what we call a pull request operation. So what does that pull request look like? If I go once again to my DevOps organization, I'm going to say that from my feature branch, I wanted to send back those changes to my source of truth of that branch, which is serious. And we can check, all right, so we check that the visual looks good. We check on our workspace, everything looks good. Okay, perfect. So this is the version of my report. I verified my report working on the workspace X. In this case, we, for convenience sake, and we use the same one, but we can say that workspace X, and it was reviewed during meeting X on and approved by X person, right? Or in this case, the product owner, and then the name of that person, right? All right. And we said that who's going to be the approvers, the reviewers, and all that stuff, right? We set the files, the commit, and we create the pull request. So that pull request signals, hey, the intent of sending those changes from our development environment into our, the source of truth of our workspace, right? So we have also, when we're working with different type of people, usually it's very common to have what we call peer reviews. And people are going to say, oh, you know what, I know that you changed this one to a new type. How about why did you change it? Or why did you change it to tree map? Why didn't you change it to some other visual? I think it will look better. After the end of that debate, we're okay, we approve, and then we will complete this pull request. All right. So I'm going to complete it. Usually it's a good practice for you to delete the feature branch so you don't have keep stuff that it will become potentially confusing or even garbage along the line. So let's complete the merge. All right. So we're completing the merge, and now all the changes that we have on our visual, on our feature branch, are now go back and got integrated to our main branch in our workspace. And the last part, I think I show you this before, is this process of, if I click on source control, now we can again see, hey, you have new changes. You wanted to take them in and integrate it with my current version. And I will say update yes, and those changes going to be reflected. But I'm not going to do it as of now because I'm going to do it as part of the next video I'm going to record for you when I'm going to talk about on continuous integration and how we can automate this instead of me doing this one by clicking update all. And the next video, I'm going to show you how to automate it. So stay tuned and please see you in the next one. All right.